Good morning. Good to have all of you here. Our opening bells, again, compliments of our partner church in Felshiracos. But it reminds me when I was at the church in Louisville, at Clifton Unitarian Church, we actually had a bell tower inside the building with 3 bells, 3 different sizes, from large to small. And the kids in particular loved starting the service by ringing those bells. And the small one was pretty easy to tug at too hard, and if you let go, it would tend to zip up the building and wrap around the rafters, and we'd have to call the fire department to come and take it down for us. So, but it was a lot of fun. So it's great to hear our services start the way I remember them starting for many years in my life, with the ringing of bells. I do want to welcome you again to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane's virtual service, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we say in short, say it with me, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. I do want to welcome all of you to our service, even though you're not physically here in the building. I know that you are with us, and I hope that you know that you're with one another. We've actually been getting a tremendous number of people streaming with us on Sundays. We had over 300, which is most of our usual attendees last Sunday. And so I want you to think about that today as you're home alone, or home at least with only your closest loved ones, with your family, and to know that at this very moment you are joined in community with your fellow Unitarian Universalist. And if you are joining us for the first time today, or visiting with us and do not regularly attend our services, we're also very glad that you're here with us, and want to welcome all of you bring with you to this space, as always, all of your unique beliefs and your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, all that helps make you who you are. I wanted to let you know a couple of things. One, I am going to be in the pulpit next Sunday. Not sure what I'll be talking about. I was scheduled to actually be speaking at the church in Whitefish, Montana, but for obvious reasons I'm not going to be going there. And so I think I'm going to be taking that following week off for vacation, and was going to have kind of Sunday to Sunday, but I think I'd like to be here next Sunday to at least lead us in a service together at this time. So I look forward to seeing you live next Sunday, too. As I mentioned last Sunday, we are in the period which is usual for our generosity campaign, in which we seek folks to contribute to our congregation so that we can budget accordingly for the coming year. As some of you may recall, last year we started doing things a little differently. We started presuming that folks will continue to give the pledges that they've made to us on an ongoing basis rather than merely an annual basis. So that's going to help us be able to budget accordingly, even in the midst of not being able to be as actively involved in the campaign as usual. We do ask that if you are making changes to your pledge, that you let us know, so that we can budget accordingly. That would mean if you, for some reason, are not going to be able to contribute this coming year, if you need to decrease your pledge for some reason, or if you're going to increase your pledge, hey, I'm all for that. But please consider that. Let us know if you're going to make changes one way or the other. Otherwise, we're going to count on your continued support of our community, and I want to offer my continuous gratitude to you, all of you, for doing so. So thank you so very much for your continued generosity. Now let's take a couple of minutes, as we did last week, to do our virtual greeting of one another. I would encourage you to get your devices out, and if you want to email somebody, text somebody from the congregation just to let them know you're thinking about them. Just a quick sort of way of saying hello, we're thinking of you. And if you are visiting with us and you don't know anybody in our congregation yet, then text a friend of yours and just let them know that you're thinking of them it's great to stay in contact at this time, and what a wonderful way to do it this morning. So please, take a few moments. Thank you so much, and I'm tempted to say, as always, we'll have social hour following our service where you can visit more, but actually you can, right? You can continue those communications after our service. So if there's some folks you thought of texting or emailing or even calling that you weren't able to in this short period of time, then consider doing so after our service. We are going to move forward now with the lighting of our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found. I'm going to turn the candle on over my shoulder as a symbol of our candle kindling ceremony at this time. Now, if you have a small candle or a light, or even want to use the light on your cell phone at this time to make the ritual more physical for you where you're at, we are going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our minds. And I've got one that was actually submitted to me. It's a little bit longer than the candle of care readings that we usually do, but given its nature and because we have a little bit more time these days, given that we unfortunately aren't able to provide music with this service for copyright purposes, I want to let you know that longtime member and friend of our church, Jan Woodward, passed away on April 1st from cancer. Jan moved to Roseburg, Oregon, a number of years ago to be closer to her family. She leaves behind her partner, Steve Phelps, her twin sister Joyce, her daughter Heidi, and her son Max. She joined our church during Rudy Gilbert's ministry, which, as you know, started in the 50s and ended in the late 60s. She and her husband, Ross Woodward, started the Spokane Humanist organization in 1995. Her gracious presence challenged the common belief that humanists were just a bunch of grumpy old men. Jan will be remembered for hosting and cooking gourmet meals for nearly 40 UU Women's retreats at Priest Lake. One of Jan's last visits to Spokane was fairly recently to attend her first General Assembly last June. She enjoyed every minute of it. Jan was a kind and gracious woman and always had something meaningful to share. She never offended anyone. Jan was a loyal friend and loved by all. So we kindle a candle in celebration of her memory and life. I also want to kindle a candle of celebration this morning for two of our beloved members, Jan Baker and Joanne Bailey, who officially tied the knot yesterday on their 25th anniversary. And I was very fortunate. We were all able to be creative in being part of that wedding ceremony and helping them perform their nuptials. So just a couple of witnesses, and Jan and Joanne and myself with some very nice masks that they made. So it was a wonderful occasion, and it was nice to actually be with some people for a little bit yesterday. But congratulations, Jan and Joanne. We love you and are so happy, and it took a long time getting there, and I'm glad that we were able to do it and celebrate your wedding and the recognition of your love together yesterday. It meant a lot to me too. So let's take a moment of silence now on behalf of some others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud to those who are present with you, or just name them aloud to yourself at this time. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. Now let's see, I feel somebody tugging at my foot. Hang on just a second. My goodness, who have we here? I recognize this fellow, I believe. Oh, the Pooh Bear. My goodness, what are you doing here? This is a long way from the 100-acre wood. I'm looking for Christopher Rodden. It's been a very long time since I've seen him. Well, I imagine that Christopher Robin is sheltering in place just like everyone else is doing, just like I think you should be doing. What is sheltering in place? Well, it means staying where you're at. But I'm always where I'm at. Being where I'm at is the only place I know where to be. Well, what I mean, I guess, is that you should stay in one place. But I am in one place, aren't I? Well, let me see if I can explain this. What I mean is that you should stay put. You shouldn't leave home or go visit your friends right now. You mean like the time I ate too much honey and got stuck in the doorway of Rabbit's house? Well, kind of like that. Or the time I got my head stuck in a honey pot. Well, that's not exactly what I mean. Or the time I got my head stuck in a beehive trying to eat honey. No, that's not what I mean. And being in one place doesn't mean you have to feel like you're stuck. It doesn't. No, you can make it interesting by doing something creative with your time. Like what? Well, for example, later on I'm going to read a poem that I wrote a long time ago that was inspired by a buffalo. Oh, that sounds an awful lot like a heffalump to me. Well, look, I think what you should do is go back home, and this week I want you to try to do something creative with your time. Think about something that inspires you, like honey. Yeah, kind of like honey, and make something creative. Maybe you could write a poem about it, or a song, or draw a picture, or paint one, or sculpt something out of clay. Well, that sounds like fun. I can't wait to get back where I'm at. But I still miss Christopher Robin. I have an idea. Let me see if we can FaceTime Christopher Robin. Okay, here we go. Hello? Yes, hi, Christopher Robin. I have someone here who very much wants to see you. Say hello, Pooh. Christopher Robin, it's you. But how did you get inside that little box? Are you stuck? Oh, Too, you silly willy-nilly old dare. Okay, I'm going to let you guys talk while we continue with our service. Thank you for being here, Pooh. Stay safe. Be creative. You just never know who's going to show up at the Unitarian Universalist Church. Let's go ahead now and just have a moment of meditation. I'm going to do my reading after my sermon this morning, where the poem that I mentioned to Pooh a minute ago, because I think it'll make more sense then. So this sermon is entitled Miracle, My Amazing Encounter with a White Buffalo. Long ago, the Lakota Yote, the people of the nation, were in the midst of a terrible famine. Chief Standing Hollowhorn sent two of his best hunters to find food. Along the way, they saw something in the distance coming toward them. Before long, they could see that it was a Wakin, their word meaning sacred being. They knew this because it was floating, not walking. And when the walk-in was close enough, they saw the most beautiful woman they had ever seen. She had 2 red dots of face paint on her cheeks and wore a bright white buckskin outfit embroidered with colorful designs drawn delicately with a porcupine quill. Her long black hair hung loose except for a single strand tied back with buffalo fur. Overcome with lust, one of the young hunters became disrespectful and was immediately struck by lightning. Because the other hunter had treated her well, the walk-in told him to go back to the people of the great nation and tell them to prepare for her arrival by constructing a medicine lodge. 4 days later, the Lakota people saw the walk-in, whom they had named White Buffalo Calf Woman, approaching, carrying a bundle with her. When she arrived, Chief Standing Hollowhorn honored her and said, "Sister, we are glad you are here and happy to hear your instruction." She then entered the medicine lodge they had constructed and circled the interior like the sun. After showing them how to make an altar of red earth, she opened her bundle and removed the chanupa, the sacred pipe. She filled it with red tobacco and demonstrated the right way to smoke it by walking around the lodge 4 times like the great sun, representing the sacred hoop, the circle without end. Its fire is the fire without end, passed from generation to generation, and its smoke is the living breath of great-grandfather mystery. White Buffalo Calf Woman then showed the people the right way to pray by lifting the chanupa up towards Grandfather Sky and down towards Grandmother Earth, then in all 4 directions to complete the sacred hoop. With this holy pipe, she told them, you will walk like a living prayer. With your feet resting upon the earth and the pipe stem reaching into the sky, your body forms a living bridge between the sacred beneath and the sacred above. Walk-in Tonka smiles upon us because now we are as one. Earth, sky, all living things, the 2-legged, the 4-legged, the winged ones, the trees, the grasses, together with the people, they are all related, one family. The pipe holds them together. After teaching them more about the sacred pipe and its meaning, she turned to the women of the tribe and said, you are from the Mother Earth. What you do is as great as what the warriors are doing. She then turned to the children of the tribe and said, you are the most important and precious ones of all because you are the coming generation. Someday it will be your responsibility to hold the sacred pipe and pray with it. She then turned once more to the chief and to all the people and reminded them to take great care of the sacred pipe and to remember to use it in all of their ceremonies. She said, I am the 4 ages of creation and will return to you every generation. Every generation I will come back to you. You will see me again. She then departed toward the direction from which she had come, her beautiful shape silhouetted in the orange sun. As she became more distant, the people saw her take on the shape of a buffalo, turning brown, then red, then yellow, and finally she became a white buffalo calf, all the colors of all the people of the world, just before disappearing. For this reason, she is said to have rainbow eyes, because she sees people of all colors as one. After she vanished, the plain was immediately filled with an enormous buffalo herd, some of which sacrificed themselves to the people so they could have everything they needed to survive: meat for food, skin for clothes and shelter, and bones to make tools with. This is why the people of the great nation believe that a white buffalo calf is the most sacred living thing anyone can ever encounter. The first time I saw a white buffalo was in a 1977 film called The White Buffalo, starring Charles Bronson as Wild Bill Hickok and Will Sampson from One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest fame as Crazy Horse. Both men were haunted by the same frightening dream of a gigantic white buffalo, powerful enough to shake the ground and burst through mountains. I was 13 in '77. Several years later, in my late 20s, I began dreaming of a white buffalo. In one particular dream, she appeared to me near a cabin by a lake, the lake I've always imagined would make my ideal home. Wearing a collar with license tags, she led me to a nearby stream. I took this to mean her story is meant for me too, that she has given me license to be inspired by it, and that her teachings can keep me on the right road that follows alongside the stream of life. A few years more, when I was in my 30s and still working in television news, I learned a white buffalo had been born, the first since 1933. I felt an immediate and profound desire to visit her. The people of the nation named her Miracle because it had been presumed that the rare genetic mutation required to produce a true white buffalo, not an albino, but a true white, had been extinguished when the bison became nearly extinct at the start of the 20th century, down to less than 500 head. But in August 1994, Miracle was born on the hobby farm of Dave and Valerie Hyder in Janesville, Wisconsin, just north of Chicago. It was almost 6 years later that I finally had the opportunity to answer Miracle's unceasing call. My son, Julian, and my friend, Jim Carter, accompanied me on the journey. I called in advance to ask if it would all be okay if we camped out for a night on the farm. A kindly old man answered the phone and gave us permission, adding, if anyone gives you any problem, just tell them that Grandpa said it would be okay. Upon our arrival, we entered a small gift shop that had been set up on the property and asked where to pitch our tent. Valerie Hyder politely informed us they didn't allow strangers to overnight on their property. She wasn't at all happy when I pulled the grandpa card. She shook her head and said, "Wait here while I go talk to my husband." And a few minutes later, she returned and instructed us to go out and speak with Dave Hyder. When we found him, he was sitting atop a noisy tractor, a tall, thick, rugged, gruff hobby farmer whose day job was truck driving. He gave us a suspicious once-over before even considering making good on Grandpa's unauthorized promise. Being a staunch Republican, as it turns out, he was especially leery after my friend introduced himself as Jimmy Carter. Upon explaining he's no relation and prefers going by Jim, and a bit more ice-breaking conversation, Dave agreed to let us stay. He even invited us to stay in a teepee that some visiting dignitaries from the Native American community had permanently set up on the site. And the idea of spending the night in a real teepee was, of course, thrilling to my son. Before setting up camp, I spoke a bit more with Dave, who told me some of Miracle's story, about the day she was born, and how on a whim he called the local paper in case they wanted to come and take a picture of a rare white buffalo calf, and how surprised and overwhelmed they were after word got out to have tens of thousands of Native Americans, among others, coming from all over the world. He also admitted that at first all they could see was dollar signs. But once they realized what Miracle represented, they felt morally obligated to share her for free of charge with everyone, even though they had had offers to buy her from all over the place, including from Ted Nugent to Ted Turner. Dave said that the Indian nation of South Dakota offered to trade every buffalo they had for her. But he kept her on his humble farm, tucked on the outskirts of one of America's small working-class cities, riding his tractor and driving his truck because it was the right thing to do. He told me about the many times he'd seen her come down from the hill, stand at the wire fence, and look at one person, pick one person out of a crowd of hundreds. Inevitably, he said, that person would come to me afterward and tell me they were dying of cancer or something like it, and that they wanted to come visit Miracle before they died. Astounded by all of this, I said, I suppose she's the closest thing to a pope or a Dalai Lama that we have in the United States. He's been here, Dave replied. Who? I asked. Him, that guy you just said. The Dalai Lama? I said in disbelief. He told me he'd once noticed, in his words, a couple of monks running around the place, which wasn't terribly unusual because he'd had visitors from all over the world. But he remembered on this particular occasion, because of something the monks said that was rather unusual and memorable, "My master wishes to speak with you." So Dave Hyder followed the man to meet his master, who told him, "Miracle and I are on the same path this lifetime, and it has been very important for me to spend time here with her. I want to thank you for all you and your family are doing for her, allowing her to come here, allowing them to come here." The next day, the servant returned and handed Dave a silk scarf as a gift, explaining that it was from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who apologized for not being able to reveal his true identity, but he needed to keep his presence concealed because he had risked leaving his bodyguards behind in order to spend sacred time alone with Miracle. Just before sunset, Julian, Jim, and I sat along a log near the slightly electrified fence separating us from Miracle's pasture. The fence was covered with hundreds of ribbons and dream catchers past visitors had tied to it. In the meantime, it might surprise you to know that Miracle was no longer white. Unless they are albino, white buffaloes are born pure white instead of brown, as other buffaloes are. But within the first year, they turn white, then yellow, red, and then brown. All the colors of all the people of the world, like white buffalo calf woman does before disappearing. By the time I met her, she looked like any other buffalo and was accompanied by a small herd consisting of herself, her own young calf, another female and a slightly older calf, and their bull. While setting up camp, I had observed her acting like any mother bison might, chasing the bigger calf away from her own when they got to playing too rough. But as we were sitting there, the entire herd eventually came by to briefly check us out. First the bull, then the other female, the two calves, and finally Miracle. Upon doing so, however, she stopped, and she stood still before us, within our reach. In that moment, she stopped being the attentive mother that I had witnessed earlier, allowing her calf to frolic freely with the other in the distance. It was as if she'd understood that we were there to see her and decided to personify the goddess we had come to visit. She wasn't tame. Bison aren't, not even those raised on a farm. She let us know immediately that she wouldn't tolerate any physical contact that was improper. It reminded me of the ancient belief that touching the sacred is profane, that contact with the totem is taboo. So instead, as my custom is when I demonstrate reverence for something that I consider sacred, I prostrated myself 3 times. My son and Jim followed my example. Miracle dropped her head low enough for me to feel her breath blowing against my face. I pulled some sweet grass that was beyond her reach and placed it on the ground beneath her as an offering. She ate it. She also remained with us, standing in that same spot throughout the entire sunset, never departing or moving or even turning her attention toward her calf. She didn't leave until we did, sometime after dark. The next morning, she came and stood before us again, not leaving us until it was time for us to go. Miracle's life was full of what Carl Jung would have called synchronicities, referring to uncanny acausal connections between things or events, or what we might simply call a lot of weird coincidences. According to the Lakota story, for example, white buffalo calf woman's return is supposed to be the signal of the beginning of world peace. And Miracle was born across the street from a lake called Geneva, the name of the Swiss city where the United Nations is headquartered. And the name of the road that she was born on is Avalon, same as the mythological island where a young boy removes Excalibur from a stone to become a legendary king. A few years after my trip to Janesville, I was having lunch with Houston Smith in Indianapolis. Houston Smith was one of the world's leading experts on world religions and the subject of Bill Moyer's 1996 five-part miniseries, The Wisdom of Faith with Houston Smith. Some of you may remember. Houston died at age 97 in 2016. He not only studied world religions, but he practiced them while doing so. He lived and practiced every major religion. And during our lunch, I happened to tell him about Miracle, whom he'd never heard of. His Holiness was there? He exclaimed in delight and disbelief. Wait till I tell Kendra, referring to his spouse. This is the reason I came here. His thrill upon learning her story pleased me to no end. Another sad synchronicity came September 19, 2004, when Miracle unexpectedly died, only 4 days after George W. Bush came to Janesville to address blue-collar workers while stumping for his re-election. It was odd, given that she hadn't been ill and was only 10 years old, just a third of the way through her normal lifespan. I couldn't help but imagine if the death of this peaceful being wasn't some kind of cosmic response to the presence of a man who had begun 2 unholy wars. So you can only imagine what I thought when the news came that another white buffalo had been born exactly 9 months later, which is the gestation period for buffaloes just as it is for humans. More amazing, the calf was born only a few minutes from my home in Kentucky, not far from the state capital, on the border of a small town called Baghdad. Just as she was symbolically born in Geneva, a place of world unity, on a street called Avalon, symbolizing her royalty, she had symbolically been reborn in a war zone in Baghdad. Call it synchronicity, coincidence, a mystery, or just plain weird, this new calf's birth seemed a continuation of Miracle's story and her peaceful purpose. I went to the new buffalo's naming ceremony, led by a local tribe of Native Americans who named the still snow-white calf Conte Peyute, which means medicine heart in the Lakota language, a name that represented their hope that she might bring healing to the world. I can't explain the meaning of all of this and would rather just let the mystery be, as we say. What I will say is that my encounter with Miracle and her story has been among the more profound religious experiences of my life. It was an experience of awe and wonder that filled me with hope and gratitude, which I think is what a good religious experience should be. It brought the Lakota legend to life for me. It made it real, and most importantly, It daily reminds me of my duty to follow the wisdom of white buffalo calf woman, to walk in the same direction as nature, not against it, following the light, and to remember all my relations and responsibility to care for all that is, for the whole sacred hoop of the world. With this holy pipe, you will walk like a living prayer, with your feet resting upon the earth and the pipe stem reaching into the sky. Your body forms a living bridge between the sacred beneath and the sacred above. Wankan Tonka smiles upon us because now we are as one. Earth, sky, all living things, the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged ones, the trees, the grasses. Together with the people, they are all related, one family. The pipe holds them all together. But I think the pipe is meant to be symbolic too. Just as miracle was only symbolically in Geneva, Avalon, and Baghdad, the pipe represents whatever our sacred way is, whatever our religion and values are. They become sacred when we use them, the sacred way of white buffalo calf woman, taught the Lakota Oyote, remembering that our relationships to the unending sacred hoop of the world and to all its beings. Not long after my encounter, I was inspired enough to write a poem about my experience. It's really meant to be a song, but I don't write music, so I'll just call it a poem. I went looking for a vision with Jimmy Carter and my boy. We met a goddess in Wisconsin, north of Chicago, Illinois. She came walking off the mountain through the mist of Avalon, and though we could never hold her, she touched my friend and touched my son. She held my heart within her beauty and pulled this strong man to his knees. Jim and my boy fell down beside me, and her breath became the breeze. She came to us white as snow on the first day of her birth, then turned brown and red and yellow like all people of the earth. And she showed us how to live, and she taught us what to give, to be in harmony with all that is. She came to us with a mission and saw the world with rainbow eyes. You've got to pray in all directions, bless the earth and bless the sky. You must see your own reflection in the face of everyone. Take what you need each day to live, learn how to love and to forgive. Walk in peace, wonder, and beauty. Revere all creatures, great and small. Offer thanks for blessings and bounty, and your heart to one and all. She fell down her 10th September, days before war in her hometown. Now our hearts must long remember the great miracle we found. And we'll try to walk in beauty, and we'll try to live in peace, and fulfill our sacred duty to awaken those who sleep. Till white buffalo calf woman returns to roam the earth again, we'll pray in thanks, care for our land, and treat all people as our friends. She promised each generation she'd return to the promised land and teach all people of the nations how to gather hand in hand. Who knew that I would live to tell a new miracle is born, only 9 moons after she fell in a home broken and war-torn. Her tears of love and healing heart can mend the wounds of hate and pain, give a violent world a brand new start, living anew, born again. She came to us white as snow on the first day of her birth, then turned brown and red and yellow like all the people of the earth. And she showed us how to live, and she taught us what to give, to be in harmony with all that is. Thank you. Have a great week. Stay healthy, stay happy. Shalom, namaste, salam alaikum, amen.